To give us an overview of this morning's activity, please welcome the Chairman of the Asean Business Advisory Council, Mr. Joey Concepcion.
Good morning. I'm going to make it short because I'm sure all of you are hungry, and Anthony Pangilinan here is supposed to interview the finalists of the Inclusive Business awardees, and I guess everybody knows already who the winner is because it was published in the newspaper today. This is my favorite topic, inclusive business. For the last 12 years, this is what I've been doing. Aside from growing our own corporation, I've been promoting inclusivity through Go Negosyo, which is basically a local movement of really helping micro and small entrepreneurs in the Philippines. There are about millions of micro and small entrepreneurs. These entrepreneurs comprise 99.6% of the entire ecosystem in the business community. 0.4% belong to the large corporations. Many of them will be awarded tonight. Even myself, we belong to that large sector. Secretary Mon Lopez was with me for the last 12 years, also promoting inclusivity, helping micro and small entrepreneurs. On top of that, helping our young kids believe in themselves and aspire to be an entrepreneur one day. When we talk about inclusive business, what comes to our mind is, should I start a business, a social enterprise? Yes, we are open to ideas. We are encouraging social enterprises to start. But imagine the large corporations in the Philippines and in your own country. The moment they practice inclusivity, the impact is much faster than creating a business model on social enterprise. There are many who are creating, young kids especially want to start and be part of this new wave of social enterprise. But sometimes they fail that it has to be a viable business model. A social enterprise cannot continue just waiting for donors to support their vision. It must be an ongoing business. It has to be the right business model. So the impact of large corporations embracing inclusivity is faster and, of course, with greater magnitude. When our president won the last election, despite the previous president doing extremely well in making the Philippines an investment-grade country, a mayor from Davao, from nowhere, becoming the president, said something to many of those wondering why, did he win despite the country doing extremely well? And if you look at it, yes, the country did well and did well for the wealthy, but did not do well for those many who are still below the poverty line, similar to many of the other Asean countries who have quite a number of micro, small entrepreneurs who are struggling. And that was the biggest awakening for us in the private sector. And I felt in the last 12 years, my calling was to help small people, small entrepreneurs succeed in life. This time, I have an ally, and that is the president, who is supporting many of our micro and small entrepreneurs and will be a friend to big business if big business will help the smaller entrepreneurs. And this calling is very important because it brings now a unification between the private sector and government agencies, such as the Department of Trade and Industry, Department of Agriculture, which is basically the enabling group that will help put together and link many of these entrepreneurs. My vision really is creating a model where public and private partnership will be sustainable in helping many of our micro-entrepreneurs. The ASEAN Business Advisory Council unanimously approved that AMEN, the ASEAN Mentorship Entrepreneurship Network, will start. And on November, we hope to inaugurate this group, this movement, this organization of mentors all over the 10 ASEAN countries that will be shared by other countries, a pool of mentors from the Philippines today. I'm told we have close to 450 mentors actively mentoring micro-entrepreneurs. So the Philippines is ready, and the call is for the other ASEAN countries to come up with their own mentors, wherein we can now share these mentors to each and every ASEAN country, basically on their strengths, logistics, agriculture, and so forth. So mentorship is a very, very important tool in bringing about a growth and a acceptance towards inclusivity. The call to private sector, and especially the 0.4% of the large business enterprise, is equally important. Because if large enterprise will not adopt an inclusive business model, then it's going to take really, really so long. Why is large enterprise crucial in this whole program? Our supply chain alone is immense. For micro-entrepreneurs to be able to link with buyers, especially in other ASEAN countries, will be a big challenge. They have no mentors for them to be able to guide them through the process of developing products that are acceptable. Branding is also important, logistics. So by embracing many of these people as part of our supply chain, it hastens the process. And in the case of providing funds, which many of them need, large enterprise can provide them credit and support. And once large enterprise buys the products from them, these receivables can be discounted with the bank. So from that idea, we further developed the whole framework to include two other M's. So mentorship is crucial, very important. We've seen the success of an entrepreneur being mentored all the way through. And it increases, not guarantees his success, because in the end, that particular entrepreneur has to want the will to succeed. That one we can't teach. And I always share this with many people. You cannot force people to be successful. Success is for those people who really want it most. So that attitude must be present. If that attitude is present, then mentorship will work. But more than mentorship, we need two other M's, which is market and money. The market, as I explained earlier, large enterprise can provide that market. In the current state of our business models, in the brick and mortar business models, you will have to deal with large corporations such as us. So that can be linked. And in the money side, we are looking at government to really actively support this area. Big banks in the Philippines are not lending micro and small entrepreneurs because it's too small an amount. So they go to rural banks, they go to microfinance institutions. And that is where the challenge is in collateral. Many of these micro and small entrepreneurs don't have the collateral. But when they're attached to a large enterprise, they become bankable. They have a mentor, and they have a market, all complete. And that is a model that we in the Philippines, the private sector, is pushing beyond this ASEAN leadership, chairmanship that we're doing, to see a council of prosperity that will be established in the Philippines. And I'm sure this model, if it does work in the Philippines, can be mirrored by the other ASEAN countries on creating a model for mentorship, market, and money. And how best can we do it? We look at Philippines alone with the insurgency and all of what's happening in Mindanao. And when you look at it, it boils down to poverty. Poverty creates all of this unrest. And if we really want to establish peace in the Philippines and ASEAN countries, prosperity has to be shared. And definitely, an inclusive business is what is needed, not only with us in the Philippines, but in other ASEAN countries. And for ASEAN alone to continue to last beyond 50 years, it has to be a fair game, not some ASEAN countries doing better at the expense of others. And this is where the trade negotiations happens. And always keeping in mind that no one should be left behind is a principle that we have to adopt as an ASEAN brotherhood and in our own country as responsible citizens, that inclusivity is the way forward. And the fastest way is large business to adopt many of our micro and small entrepreneurs. And for the first time, we will be giving an Inclusive Business Award this evening, just as a testament of how serious the ASEAN Business Advisory Council is really strong in pushing greater exclusivity in the region. And I'd like to, might as well congratulate Mr. Ferrer, our Inclusive Business Awardee for the award tonight. He started a generics store, you know. And at first, in fact, we launched the Inclusive Business Book, which all of you will be getting. 80 entrepreneurs, and I would be happy to say about 30% of that are large enterprises already practicing inclusive business. So, Mr. Ferrer is not part of the book, and yet he was spotted by the judges. His model is really different. He changed the landscape in really the way our poor will be able to afford buying medicine. Many years back, medicine was controlled by strong brands and large corporations. Many of them are my friends. Because of generic drugs now being sold and many following his footsteps, even the large brands have to move and create their own generic brand. And many of our Filipino people now can buy medicine at a much, much lower price. So that is how models like this can change and help the poor. In this case, it was not creating a business or helping them in their business, but changing and helping them buy medicine at a cheaper price. And even the bigger brands today are forced to lower their price to be able to compete. So this is what we want to see. We want to see more of Mr. Ferrer examples such as this, and many of our finalists also who will be present this evening. We have to encourage inclusive growth for us to create greater prosperity for the entire nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joey Concepcion. We shall now hear the stories of this year's finalists in the ASEAN Inclusive Business Awards. To facilitate this segment, please welcome host CNN Philippines and top-notch motivational speaker, Mr. Anthony Pangilinan.
Good morning. Another round of applause for Joey. The other M in the framework. Joey, you know your M, no? The master. Humble one at that. Can you please tell a person beside you, congratulations for being included in today's program? Come on, tell a person beside you. Now the question is, are you the wealthy one or the one still looking for prosperity? It's an honor for me to be part of this program today, not just to learn from our finalists and of course the winner, but to honor them in front of all of you. I'd like to call them on now. First, we'd like to call on Mr. Teodoro Ferrer, President and CEO, Erica Jen Incorporated Philippines. Generica. I'd like to call also Ms. Felicitas Pantoja, CEO and founder, Coffee for Peace Philippines. Mr. B. Chit Tharath Filafandeth. Oh, I hope I got that right. Executive Vice President, KP Company, Lao PDR. Mr. Clint Ku, Business Development Manager, CM Organics, Thailand. We have two more finalists who are not with us today, but I'd like to acknowledge them just the same. Olam International Singapore, a round of applause for this group. And Batik Boutique Malaysia. What we're going to do is we're going to first give them the opportunity to tell their story for a maximum of 7 minutes. So we should have a big timer there, right? And then we're going to ask them some questions. And our goal is to finish this within 45 minutes so we can have a great lunch before this afternoon's specific learning sessions. So, I'd like to hand over to you is this the clicker? Can you show me the clicker? Is this the one? Okay. They have their own already. So you're equipped with your clicker. So Mr. Ted Ferrer, you may begin. If you want to use the podium, that's fine too. Another round of applause for a finalist, and as already mentioned by Mr. Concepcion, the winner for the Inclusive Business Awards.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Teodoro Ferrer, and I will be here to tell you about the interesting story of Generica Drugstore, which Joey Concepcion has already touched on. Generica is a national drugstore chain in the Philippines focused on providing affordable, quality generic medicines and related services. From inception until now, it aims to serve principally the low-income market segments. We've come a long way, and the company currently has 794 employees. We have also franchised the business model, giving over 200 franchisees the opportunity to have their own successful businesses. By the way, I'm using some notes because at the age of 72, the memory and the mind is not as sharp as before. No? Generica was founded in September 2003 as a joint venture. I was one of the founders, a 60-year-old retiree from Ayala. So those who are about to retire, if you follow my example, there is life after the company that you have left. And my partner is Julian Bello, a Frenchman in his early 30s who came here to do social work. As anticipated, Generica went through several challenges and growing pains in the early years of the startup, but currently we have reached 702 outlets nationwide, and revenues have grown to 2.9 billion pesos. The company has attracted a large number of customers, and transactions are running at the rate of 40 million per year, with 5 million unique customers. Active generic card holders are at 443,000 people. All stores are mandated to educate local communities and provide them access to quality, affordable alternatives to the expensive branded medicines with savings up to 85%. Generica has also institutionalized the practice of free medical consultations, which the lower income people really appreciate because they have very limited access to doctors, free blood pressure, and affordable mobile laboratory, thereby addressing a basic healthcare need. In 2003, we saw the urgent need to bridge the gap in the healthcare industry at a time when prices of medicines were very high and generic medicines as an alternative was largely not available. This was, moreover, despite the Generics Act of 1988 and the government's effort to promote generics through the Botika ng Bayan, the perception of the general population toward generic medicines then was still very negative. With their low income, most Filipino families could not afford the prohibited cost of branded medicines. Thereby, their sickness was getting worse, threatening their ability to work, or sadly resulting in worse consequences. The timing in 2003 was just right for me because I was about to retire from Ayala at the age of 60 after more than 30 years of service. I also had retirement funds to invest, and I was looking for something worthwhile to do as a way of giving back for all the blessings I'd received in life. Looking back at that time, I sincerely believe that I was greatly inspired by the example of my father. He was a primary care physician in Zamboanga City who practiced until the age of 83. I remember visiting his clinic often after school and seeing it filled with patients. My father would treat 100 or more patients, mostly from the indigent sector, every day. For the longest time, he charged only 2 pesos in professional fees compared to the 150 and 200 charged by other doctors. And so, without previous experience in pharma and the retail business, without doing a proper feasibility study, Julian and I made the commitment and we formed Generica Drugstore as a startup venture. We, however, wanted it to be a profitable, sustainable business model so that we could continue without relying on donations and so that we could expand and so that we could attract franchisees to further grow the business. So while the social responsibility was a major driving force, we also wanted it to be a self-sustaining enterprise. Unfortunately, due to our previous corporate experience, we invested sufficient funds to survive the initial years of losses that were anticipated. Our first office was in a 2-bedroom apartment along Sucat in Parañaque. That's it, no? It's still there. Since 2003, we have significantly grown our head office and warehouse and increased the number of stores. The pharma retail space in 2003 was dominated by retail giants focused on expensive branded medicines. I think many of you may remember that that time nobody was hardly buying generic medicines. However, despite being a newcomer, Generica soon disrupted and changed the landscape of pharma retail. Slowly, through education and so on, communities were persuaded to try generic equivalents, found them to be effective and cheap, and soon were switching over. We also trained and instructed our store personnel to provide innovative products and health services and promote customer satisfaction. The rapid growth of Generica inspired other businessmen and entrepreneurs to set up their own generic stores. And soon, even the long-established pharma retail chains that offered branded medicines only before were now carrying generic medicines as public perception had changed dramatically and customers were actually asking for them. In addition, most drugstores are now conducting community health services following our example. Generica has always focused on and prioritized the health needs of the poorer sectors of the company since inception. But now, we're also reaching out to the other sectors of the community. I remember we formulated a corporate vision in the early years stating that Generica aims to be the leading national drugstore chain offering quality, affordable generic medicines with superior customer service and a strong sense of social purpose. That has been our guidepost, and we've been working hard to accomplish this. One important development is that Ayala Healthcare acquired the 50% share of Julian Bello in July 2015 when Julian decided to sell out so that he could bring his family and 2 children back to Paris to continue their studies there. When we reviewed the corporate vision of Generica with Ayala, it was agreed to keep it basically unchanged, except now emphasis is placed on innovation and healthcare. Let me end with a story to highlight a factor that motivates us to continue what we're doing. When we opened a store in Tanjay, Negros, which is in the Visayas, a customer approached us and thanked us for doing that. And he explained that he had been buying from Generica drugstore in Imus, but he had to go home to his hometown. He added he was a retired school teacher, and what he needed was simvastatin for his cholesterol. While he could buy it from the local store in Tanjay, the cost was 40 pesos. Our price for exactly the same generic medicine was only 10 pesos. So his savings of 30 pesos allowed him to purchase rice. His wife, also a retired school teacher, needed the same medicine. Her savings of 30 pesos could be used to buy fish, etc. Thus, a major portion of their daily food requirements was being met. Such positive feedback from customers are very motivating to us, driving us to work harder to reach even more communities and help a lot more people. We expect that Generica will be stronger and energized as a result of the entry of Ayala. We expect our store network to grow even more quickly as we pursue our corporate objectives to serve more municipalities throughout the country. Millions of Filipinos, especially from the poorer communities, will benefit from the quality, affordable healthcare and innovative health services that Generica is committed to provide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was 7 minutes from the 70-year-old. Congratulations. We'd like to welcome next Ms. Felicitas Pantoja, CEO and founder, Coffee for Peace, Philippines.
Good morning. I want to share my story with you and the journey that I track to Coffee for Peace. I started as peace worker in Mindanao, Philippines, and our advocacy is to protect our environment, to help our farmers, and to promote peace building. We wanted to promote relational harmony. So our first product is peace. It's hard to sell peace, and it's easy to create war. So how do we sell peace? Peace for us is relational harmony. It's knowing that somebody greater than you created you. Relational harmony with the Creator. Peace is also understanding your being. Relational harmony with oneself, knowing your purpose in life. Peace is also relational harmony with others, having that big embrace to understand the other, even though they are of different opinion and faith than you. Relational harmony is also protecting the world we live in, the environment. So that is peace to us. That is the peace in Coffee for Peace. When we went to Mindanao, my husband and I were listening to the stories of these people. And they have been marginalized and still being marginalized for 30 plus years, fighting for their right to self-identity. Some of them experienced being raped, the land being raped by illegal logging and irresponsible mining. So talking about peace to them was very hard, especially when you see them on an empty stomach. So it's hard for them to understand peace when you're hungry. So as we talk about peace, I look for a common item or common product that was served, and it was coffee. Who drinks coffee here? Raise your hand. Okay, so I see that majority drinks coffee. So if I pick coffee as my product to market, I know for sure that I would have market. So with coffee, we focused on producing quality coffee. It's not just coffee, it's just coffee. We pay our farmers fair trade price. We guide them and walk with them from seed to cup. We go to the farm, we visit their farm, we teach them coffee plantation management with the help of other people in the Department of Agriculture, and then expose them to a coffee shop where they could taste their own product. So these farmers, you would see the big smile on her face. Her name is Marivic. When we first entered their community, the husband and Marivic was apathetic in listening to us because they said, oh, that has been done. A lot of livelihood project was introduced to us and nothing works. This won't work. Now, she is taking the course to be a Q grader, a quality Arabica grader, meaning that she would be able to taste and identify the taste profile of the coffee. If she passed, which would be next week, I think, the exam, she would be the first female Q grader in a country from the farm, farmer Q grader. That's her whole family. And you would see that they're all smiling because they are selling and have packaged their product with their own branding. And they are earning money. So in our advocacy, we care for the farmers as our partner supplier, but we also want to make our customers happy. We want them to drink good coffee. So we make sure that we produce quality coffee. We export our coffee Arabica to Canada and USA on micro-lot order. And we produce coffee shops for our urban and rural people. For urban, we call it Coffee for Peace. For rural, we call it Kapayapaan, which is also Coffee for Peace in our language. So we create a space for peace, for people to dialogue, for people to reconcile, for people to dream for free. So Coffee for Peace is not just another coffee. It's just coffee. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maraming salamat. Next we have Mr. B. Chittarath Philanfandeth. I hope I got that right. Executive Vice President, KP Company, Lao PDR.
First, I want to say Sabai. It means hello in our Lao language. I would like to introduce myself. My name is B. Chittarat Pilapandet, or you can call me Mr. Alphabet. We said you got almost every letter in. This is what I got my nickname when I was in the U.S. study. I'm the ex-vice president of the KP company, part of the KP group that has been re-established in 1992 after Lao Revolution with the second generation of the KP, of Mr. Kambay Pilapandet, our founding father. KP Group consists of 2,000 employees operating in 17 small companies in Laos. Today I'm here, I would like to share with you about our inclusive business model, that we use Japanese cucumber project. Which we use Japanese cucumber plantation project as our model, our business model. And you can, on our business model, at 2009, we got approached by Tokai Skimino or Tokai Pico Company from Japan. They would like us to introduce Japanese cucumber plant to the Lao farmer and to harvest and send to Japan. With the idea, we think about it, since we never been in this agriculture business. So what we did, after long extent discussion between the Tokai Skimino and our team, our top management decided to use part of our CSR funding to be the starter budget for the program. And then during that time, the business model is that we require the farmer to provide their own labor and they use their own land. And for our company, our responsibility is provide them the needed material, provide them the proper training, and also make a commitment on the price after the harvest. And for our partner or trading partner, we have agreement that they must purchase our product, full commitment from our harvest. On the business process, we have a 5-step when we start off the project. As you know, Lao have a lot of rural area farmer that cannot access to any kind of product beside the rice after rainy season. Therefore, we introduced this 5-step project to the Lao farmer. First, we train them, teach them how to be more productive by introducing them the modern technique of how to grow the Japanese cucumber. Second, we help them to prep or prepare the soil or the land to make sure that the yield is keep out the high yield. Third, we also control on the harvest, not just let them do whatever they want to do. Fourth, we do the fermentation on our own, the Japanese cucumber that we send to Japan to be salted 90 days before we send to Japan. And fourth, we do a packing and exporting to Japan. By introducing this project to the rural area, we help them eliminate a lot of problem or social problem. Normally, the Lao farmer, after the rainy season, in a certain area, they cannot cut any another product to the market. So they end up moving to the big city for the low unskilled labor, or go in the jungle, cut all the lumber, hunting all the wild animal, and some ending up in the sex trafficking, especially the girl want for the extra income. With our project, we pretty sure that we have eliminated some of this problem in the social responsibility. With the performance, this now been our 7th year or 8th year in the program, and our production is been increased, as you can see on the chart. And we've been helping 95 families out of the poverty line. And we also have 7 permanent staff that assist the farmer with our project. Besides that, we also create a part-time job of the 20 to 40 people per season to trimming and packing our product and sent to Japan. The challenge that we had to face with is, one of them is a big challenge, is inland transportation costs from Laos to the seaport of Thailand. Then the second is the training to the farmer to change their mind of do the traditional farming, then accept the modern technique. Third, find the land, available land, the suitable land for our plantation. And fourth, of labor shorting, because majority of the labor now is migrate to our neighbor country. And inclusive of this project, we hope that we can use our inclusive project to continue to serve to the farmer that need to introduce a product to international market in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alphabet. Next, we have Mr. Clint Ku, the final presenter today. Again, we have 2 other finalists who are not with us, but for the last presenter, we have Mr. Ku from the business of CM Organics in Thailand.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Clint Ku, and I am representing CM Organic from Thailand. And we are an inclusive business with the mission to eliminate poverty among farmers. And we do this by working with them to grow organic rice, which we then market internationally. Now, when you're speaking at events like this, it's always a good idea to give a local greeting to make everyone feel comfortable. And I'm based in Thailand, but my mother is actually Filipina. So instead of mabuhay to everyone, I will say what she always says to me. Kumain ka na ba? Have you eaten yet? It's a very important Filipino greeting. In Thailand, we have a very similar saying, kin kao ruyang, or have you eaten rice yet? Now, rice is perhaps the most important thing that links together the Asean community. It's a cheap product that everyone eats almost every single day. But how many of us actually stop to think where this rice comes from or how it's produced? Well, this is a question that the 2 co-founders of CM Organic, Neil and Pami here, thought back in 2011 when they were actually MBA students and they were given an assignment to design a social enterprise. Well, they did some research and they realized that Thailand is a leading exporter of rice, but most Thai rice farmers are actually living under poverty. And they came up with a solution, which they then decided to put into action after graduation. So what is the problem here? Well, Thailand is a leading rice exporter, but most Thai farmers live far below Thailand's poverty line, and they only earn about $12.40 per day, or per month, which is about 40 cents per day. What does this result in? Over the last 10 years, debt among farmers has tripled. Many farmers have lost their land, and farmers are getting older. No one wants to be a rice farmer anymore, and most of their children have actually moved to cities in search of wage labor. And this is a problem that affects over 17 million Thai rice farming households across the country. So if Thailand is a leading rice exporter, why are rice farmers so poor? Well, it's really broken down into 3 different variables: the price that they get for their harvest, the yield that they get, and the cost that it takes to plant that rice. And if you look at it, the price that Thai rice farmers get is extremely low because rice is a commodity product, so there's constant pressure for low prices and unstable markets. The yields that Thai rice farmers get are also very low because they're using traditional techniques that are low yielding as well as poor quality seeds which don't produce a lot of yield. And finally, the cost of Thai farmers is extremely high. And this is due to an over-reliance on expensive conventional fertilizers, as well as pesticides, and the high cost of labor. So if you look at it here, the Thai rice farmer is very uncompetitive within the Asean region. So Neil and Pami looked at this and they said, well, if it's broken down into 3 different variables, how can we solve this problem with price, yield, and cost? So what Sime Organic does is we work with organic rice grower cooperatives who grow our rice. We also work with the production cooperatives who mill the rice and package it for us. And then we at Sime Organic do what the farmers can't do, which is reach international markets. So we handle the marketing, export and distribution, and also R&D on new products. So looking at that equation there at the bottom, how do we help farmers? Well, we're lowering their costs because we're transitioning them from conventional agriculture to lower cost organic agriculture. We're increasing their yields by providing them additional training on modern farming techniques, as well as providing them with higher yielding seeds. And additionally, we're providing them a higher price for the harvest that they achieve. And we're actually able to pay them up to 200% more than they would normally achieve for commodity rice. And you ask, how is this possible to stay in business? Well, the thing is, our farmers are not planting commodity rice. They're planting jazzberry rice. Jazzberry rice is a new variety of rice developed in Thailand, which is non-GMO, organically grown, and whole grain, and extremely high in antioxidants. So we're marketing this rice as a superfood, both within Thailand and around the world, at a premium. And because it's sold at a premium, we're able to pass this along to the farmers that we work with. So starting in 2011, with 25 farmers who are willing to take this crazy risk, we've actually expanded to over 1,800 farmers in 2017. We've expanded within the domestic market to reach the major supermarket chains, and we also sell to restaurants and hotels. But our goal is to reach as many farmers as possible, and there are 17 million rice farmers in Thailand. So within the next few years, we'd like to reach at least 20,000 of those. And to do that, we had to expand the market. So last year, we exported for the first time to the US. This is a one-off project with a company called Try the World, which is a mail-order food delivery service, and we reached 62,000 households with our rice last year. The feedback that we got was tremendously good. Everyone loves to Instagram food now, so they Instagrammed a lot of our rice. And the feedback that we got was that it's amazing, it tastes great, and they can't stop eating it. So with this very positive feedback, we're now working with distributors in the US, Europe, and Asia to set up more permanent distribution channels to retail outlets. So what does this impact actually look like for the farmers that we work with? Well, a third-party impact assessor called Shujog did an impact assessment with our farmers in 2015. And they surveyed them, and they found that our farmers are actually earning dramatically more than the average Thai rice farmer in Thailand. In fact, they're earning 14 times more. And so they're going from a daily income of 40 cents a day to over $5.80 per day. So these are just big numbers, but what does this actually mean to the farmers that we work with? Well, meet this jazzberry rice farmer, Miss Ma. Miss Ma started with us a few years ago, and before she started working with the Jazzberry Project, she only had 15 rai of land, she used chemicals on her farm, and she was tremendously in debt, up to 300,000 baht. Well, after a few years of working with us, her profits have increased, and she's doubled her land holdings. All of her land is now certified organic, and she's completely out of debt. Most of all, her children who had left the farm to seek job opportunities in the city have actually moved back to the farm because rice farming is now a sustainable livelihood for her and her family. So her community is coming back together because of our project. And so there's just one thing that I will ask of you today, and that's this. The next time you see your friends or your family and you ask them, have you eaten today? Just think about the choice that you have as a consumer for that rice that's in front of you. Because the chances are it's grown by a farmer not unlike Miss Ma here. And so on one hand, you can buy your rice from a traditional company, one that exploits farmers at the bottom of the pyramid and keeps them in poverty in order to increase corporate shareholder profits and give you the lowest price. Or you can pay just a little bit more to support inclusive businesses like Siam Organic and my fellow colleagues on stage here, just to make sure that the businesses that you're supporting are ethical. Because we're proving every single day that a different way is possible to be successful. We're proving every single day that a company can make profits and can be financially sustainable and give our producers a larger piece of the pie than they had ever thought before. And so when I sit down with Miss Ma at her farm, and she asks me, have you eaten rice yet? We both smile and we're both happy because we know that when we sit down at the table together and we eat, by the time we get up, we're both satisfied because there's more than enough to go around. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Clint. Okay, so I'm going to ask one question of each of our panelists so that we can move towards the agenda for the rest of the day. Besides, they will be here and you can engage with them for the rest of the day. So based on your discussions, I'd like to share the question for you that you can answer for the audience. By the way, another round of applause for the fact that they all stuck to time. Isn't that amazing? This is the first time I've ever sat through a panel where every panelist spoke, within the time limit. I think it's also because the organizing committee who made sure that this happened, apart from asking that I was here 2 hours before the actual session. Okay, let's start with you, Ted. You said that you started Generica at the age of 60?
That's right.
Okay, everybody's talking about startups. But here you are winding up your business and you're actually starting up the age of 60. Could you, and this was not just any other business, it's a social enterprise. The advocacy was priority.
Yes.
So can you please address the seniors here, especially Joey, What can we learn from you, having to wind up and start up at the same time?
Well, first I want to say that looking back, what we did was actually quite risky. To get into a business that you were not really familiar with, but then at the same time, based on our experience, if you have the passion, if you have the determination, if you see that what you're doing is going to be helping a lot of people, provided you prepare for all of that, you can do something like what we did in Generica.
Because neither you nor your partner was in medicine.
No.
But you had a strategic planning background. That helped.
Well, my strategic planning, finance background, and general management background, that helped. So, but otherwise, it's not, a startup is always not easy. Most startups close within 5 years.
Any other advice for those who are still thinking of starting up something at the more senior years of their lives?
Well, one way that you can minimize the risk is you go into a franchise business. You get a franchise of an established franchise business, and then it's a lot easier because they have proven it, the business model works, they will support you and so on, so you can. That's one way to do it. But if you see something like what we saw, that the need in healthcare, especially for the poorer communities, was so great, and there were actually opportunities for this, you can, and you have that determination, the passion, you have the necessary preparation, you can try to really make a go for that.
Yes.
And remember, I was saying that because of the background, early on we set actually high targets. We were just starting out what you said, we want to be the leading national drugstore chain focused on quality, affordable generic medicines. So that is also another thing to remember, that if you set your target, I'll open 2 stores and then I can rest, then you will stop. But if you say you want so much more, then you will keep going, especially if you see the good results from that. Yeah.
Thank you, Ted. Okay, Georgie. Coffee for Peace. Many constraints from seed to cup.
Yes.
In terms of regulation, in this country, infrastructure. So how are you able to overcome all those constraints and still do a viable business, an inclusive business?
To be able to conquer that constraint, you have to partner with other people. So I partner with DTI for marketing. I partner with DA for the plantation side and coffee management. I partner with DENR for their national greening program because, yes, they planted coffee, they needed market for the coffee. So I partner with DOST for the Food and Drug Administration so that those coffee being packaged would pass the quality. So I cannot do it alone. But you have to be on the lookout to source out partnership. So I also partner with Solidarity investors who are peaceniks. So they are the ones who would want to support what I'm doing and to buy the products that we produce because they wanted to advance peace. And it's not only in our country. Right now we're talking to Elizabethtown University in USA, and they wanted, a social enterprise department wanted to open up Coffee for Peace USA. So they will be our direct link of social enterprise and inclusive business in other country to promote peace.
Thank you, Georgie. That's very interesting. So inclusivity has a new dimension here. It's not just partnering as big business for those who are small. It's not just partnering below. It's partnering across. It's partnering above. And it shouldn't be difficult for someone who espouses relational harmony in the first place. Thank you, Georgie. Okay, our next, Mr. B, Mr. Alphabet. Okay. Business process, for example, you mentioned there were 5 steps. But when we were discussing earlier, you mentioned that one of the most challenging is changing the mindsets of the farmer to adopt a new way of doing things, from traditional to an innovative approach to farming. Now, it's not just changing the mindset, it's changing their habits. So what has been key for you to change, not just the mindset, but the skill set, the process by which the farmers do farming?
Yeah, by introducing the modern technique of how to grow a Japanese cucumber, we had asked our partner to come to help us to do on the hand-on training in the field and convince that our farmer, they had to change the way of planning the product to the according to our buyer instruction. And that proved to certain family that when they did that, they gained a lot of the knowledge and also have a lot of yield return to them in the high yield among the group. That showed to them that all of them had to follow our supplier instruction.
Do you have any suggestion for us from an ASEAN perspective on how to change mindsets from traditional ways to new and innovative ways of doing business?
Okay. On help the change the mindset of traditional is take a long time. Took us about 3 or 4 years. You have to have a patient and patient and patient. And we did that. And now, as you can see, the last 3 years, you can see our yield has been jumping from 30 ton up to 300 ton with this the patient, and we try to teach our farmer to produce as we recommended.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alphabet. Okay, on Thailand situation, of course, you shared a story that is applicable to your locality, your country. Let's expand it again from the ASEAN perspective, because rice is important to us all. If there are three things that you can teach us here, three things that will apply perhaps on a regional level on how to enact change, what would those three things be? Because I know you're a global person. Can you just say quickly your background? Look at this person's background. He is, say it again.
Yes, hello? Is the mic
Okay.
on? Yeah. So I am American,
Okay.
but my parents are from Bacolod City in the Philippines, and I'm working in Thailand now.
Okay,
So,
great.
yes.
So, what is your suggestion? What will be three things from your experience that you think is applicable to the ASEAN context?
Well, I think when you're talking about inclusive businesses, the rules of business still apply. And so to be competitive, you can't just rely on the fact that you're helping people to stay in business. And so, two of the things that we really look at are brand building and innovation. And so, brand building, anyone can build a computer, but only Apple can build an apple, and people will buy apples, right? So what we're trying to do with our company, Jazzberry Rice, is to take, what is traditionally a commodity crop and make it something that people really value more, and they understand that it's worth more to pay for. And I think all of us here on stage have brilliant stories to build a brand behind. And I think a lot of inclusive businesses that are starting out might not be strong in communicating that message. So it's a lot of marketing and branding just to let consumers know why they should choose you over another. And the other thing is innovation. What do you provide that is different from anyone else? Even though you're helping people, is your product actually better? Is it cheaper? Is it better? What are you actually doing? And one of the things that we're doing with our rice is we're taking the rice byproducts and actually manufacturing it into gluten-free pasta, which we're marketing to a completely different market, but it's allowing us to increase our profits and generate more revenue, and allows us to scale up to involve even more farmers into our scheme. So that's two things. Maybe I can't really think of a third, but I guess to be persistent, because the company was started 6 years ago, and we've actually grown very, very quickly. But to be successful, sometimes you're losing money for a very long time. We've been lucky enough that we broke even our first year, and we've been making modest profits ever since then. But sometimes you just have to be very persistent in sticking with your plan.
Thank you very much, Clint. A round of applause to all our panelists. Clint, Mr. B, thank you, Georgie. Okay, and of course, our winner, a round of applause for Generics, represented by Ted. Amazing. We're done. We're ready for lunch. So, save for the picture. Of course, it's ASEAN, so picture taking. Always has to happen. Pictures, and we're going to serve lunch shortly.
Another warm round of applause for the finalists of the ASEAN Inclusive Business Awards 2017 and our moderator, Mr. Anthony Pangilinan. We shall now break for lunch, which will be served shortly. Session resumes at 1 p.m. Thank you. This is the ASEAN Inclusive Business Summit.
is pleased to support the development of SMEs in the ASEAN region, working with